Call the meeting to order. We'll start with public input. If you need to address the park board on any item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and concern. Okay. So the next item we have is delegations. We have Ryan Patrick from Great Plains Sponsorship.
Yep, I'll go ahead and introduce him and start the discussion here. This is Ryan Patrick is from Great Plains Sponsorship, and he's here to, we have been talking about possibly getting a sponsor for the Mitchell Rec Center and have naming rights for the rec center as well to raise at least $1 million. That would be the goal here, to use that funds for remodeling projects and to, kind of move that forward. So what we have here today is the presentation from Ryan Patrick. We have the contract here on the screen. I don't know if there's something specific you want me to point out, but the main issue that you would have here is the commission is at 20% is what it's set at in this proposal, and I'll go ahead and ask Ryan Patrick to come up to the podium here. That'd be great. And he will be able to answer any questions you have about a potential contract with them. Again, this is for discussion tonight to see what the board thinks about the idea and see if this is something we want to move on. And what we're looking for is for them to go out and help us find somebody. We wouldn't be under any obligation, at least that's what we're asking for, until we have a proposal in hand and something that you would agree on. So we wouldn't be committing to anything until we had that. And then we could approve it or deny it, is what our hopes are. And I don't know if you want to share more about that. You can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nathan. Ryan Patrick, Great Plains Sponsorships. Based out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Moved out here from California to attend the University of Sioux Falls on a baseball scholarship. That's how I kind of ended up here and stayed out here. My president, Ryan Query, was with Jerry Jones's Legends Group, so he brought in $17.2 million for the Denny Sanford Premier Center, and then did the $2.2 million Midco Aquatic Center in Sioux Falls. Second largest ever deal secured for an aquatic center. And then the first one being in Texas, and at that point, that was to that date in 2015. Had been probably started this conversation about 3-4 months ago with Nathan, and basically, when you get to the brass tacks of it all, there's no retainer, there's no any upfront fee. You guys aren't out any money at all. Typically, it was structured to where it was 5, 10, 15, and then 30. Depending on the size of the donation or the sponsorship that was brought in. And he said, you know what, we just want naming rights. We're looking at a naming rights opportunity that put in an evaluation of $1 million. Had the opportunity to come in a little bit earlier today. Was with Mr. DeVries, Nathan, walking around the facility, kind of exploring that naming rights opportunity. And, we're on a project right now at the city of Belle Fourche in their recreation center, and there was some trepidation there, and they had just spent all this money rebranding their facility. They wanted to keep the integrity of the name. They wanted to keep it the Belle Fourche Recreation Center. So what they got approved was the Belle Fourche Recreation Center, which would then be powered by XYZ Bank or XYZ Healthcare System. So it sounds like right now the partnership that you guys have with Sanford Health, that's off the table. You guys have that. That's perfectly fine. The relationships that you have with the Bowie family, the Pepsi relationship with the $250K in regards to the dollars spent on the pools. Great. So basically, with the conversations that we've had up until this point is, okay, hey, these certain groups are off the table. What can you make happen? Maybe with a bank, maybe with an HVAC group, maybe with like a Toshiba. All right, that's just different opportunities that we go into, whether it's any type of category at all. We set those meetings, we essentially, quote unquote, pound the pavement for you guys. And we don't approve any of those contracts all of those contracts are approved by you guys. You guys have first right to say, hey, you know what? We don't need Joe's Crab Shack as the naming rights partner for the Mitchell Recreation Center. Maybe that just doesn't ring a bell. It doesn't look good. I mean, yeah, I'd sent past projects. The Denny Sanford Premier Center. He was with my president who lives in Omaha right now and handles a lot of our Omaha accounts, was with Jerry Jones's Legends Group again with the San Francisco 49ers, brought in $1 billion there. You know, apples to oranges on markets because it's San Francisco versus City of Mitchell, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why the Prairie Lakes Wellness Center group and the City of Watertown brought in our group to bring in anywhere between, you know, an additional 300 to 400,000 outside of naming rights through the consultation of that as well. We were working through a naming rights opportunity with the Orthopedic Institute in the city of Brandon. So I mentioned these other sports medicine groups too. So as you guys continuously evaluate what you might be able to get in a sports medicine category in 3 years, that, you know, sometimes it's okay to ask for the farm because there's 3 other groups in town, and we've had partners in the past that will spend the money to get themselves known. So that's just a little caveat to take away as you guys continuously evaluate different sponsorship opportunities. Definitely wanted to open up the floor to any questions that you guys might have in regards to the sponsorship world, how it works. Maybe this is something that you guys are curious and have a group in-house that want to accomplish.
So what type of dollar threshold are we talking as far as, you had said with one of those that they had brought in an additional amount of money, but that was probably not on a naming rights level. So if we're talking $1 million, are you looking for one big sponsor, one big contributor to name it the Mitchell Coca-Cola Rec Center? I'm just throwing.
Right.
Are you looking for one big one, or are you looking for are you looking at doing several types of levels where?
Can I answer that partly, and then maybe you can help out? 'Cause
Yeah, no,
maybe
that's
you
fine.
might say something I don't know yet,
Yeah.
but we do have sponsors for our individual pools,
Okay.
like the comp pool. The swim club also has sponsorships for lanes and starting blocks and those kinds of things. Pepsi has sponsored our slide. You know, Sanford's has sponsored one of our positions for trainers, and so we already have some individual sponsorships throughout. And I don't know if he wants to add to that, but this was mainly to go after a sponsorship for the whole facility as one.
So
Yeah.
one big, and you're talking is $1 million. Is that?
So it wouldn't be a one upfront. I mean, I don't know if that's in the wherewithal of a lot of these organizations to go in and come in and just give a one-time donation for a check for $1 million. This would be spread out over probably a 10-year period.
Sure.
Yep.
But I mean, I'd be pretty hard-pressed if anybody came with a $750,000 check at a 15% discount, and we turn that money away, because that doesn't happen very often.
Sure. I was just curious on if it was one.
Yeah.
A one-time, one big. I mean, I get that a lot of times those are spread over years, but I was just curious if you're looking for one big name.
Well, I mean, at this point in time, given the discussions that have been had up to this point, it would just be that naming rights partner. But if there is a generated level of interest and it says, hey, wow, Ryan, you ended up getting naming rights pretty quick. Are there any other people in that prospect pipeline? What was the market feedback that you were given? Do you think maybe you could go out and get 2 or 3 more? Well, yeah, I mean, but we would need to renegotiate and chat about some different options. But then at the end of the day, too, like if we're out there in market just after one naming rights partner and somebody comes back like a First Dakota National and says, hey, you know what, we can't do naming rights, but maybe we want to do something in the fitness center, or maybe put a logo on the center court. It's like, okay, well, I'd be under the due diligence of you guys to come back and say, hey, you know what, these guys are interested in something maybe a little bit smaller, and then at no paid commission to me, that'd pretty much be a gift to you guys. You guys get all this market feedback, basically, that maybe you're going to market once before with a value in mind, and then it comes back and it's like, wow, we could be getting twice as much for this specific asset than maybe we were before. And essentially, maybe I'm the bad guy that goes out there and has to turn somebody down for naming rights naming rights to a basketball court because we're looking for just naming rights to the whole facility.
Thanks. we hired as a city this type of deal before? I'm just wondering about the 20% commission. I'm not saying it's out of line, I just said I would not.
Yep, we started it down to 30. I did ask them to bring it down. I thought it was a little high, and I don't know we haven't done this before, so I don't know. All I know is we're going after a larger amount of $1 million, which we don't usually ask for. We're not, yeah.
And this was made public knowledge too. We were on a retainer with the city of Watertown, and we didn't get any commission, but they gave us a $100,000 retainer because they wanted to know exactly how much money was coming out of the city checkbook. And that was for all the assets to the project. So that's why I put 20% commission came down from 30, because it was tiered at one point based off of total values of the dollars I brought in, because it wasn't in a way that I was supposed to go out and get the low-hanging fruit. That was for any group in-house that wanted to achieve. My goal was to come in and try and get anything, total value package of $50,000 and above. And, you know, at the end of the day, if I'm spending all these different resources and essentially going fully on spec for free and basically working for free until I bring something in, I think that's pretty generous.
So just how the commission works and how it works on the city side. So say it is over a 10-year period.
Mhm.
That's a upfront check. No, it's so you get.
I get paid as you guys get paid. So let's say worst case scenario, the sponsor goes out of business or goes bankrupt, then, oh well, we've got to start back over.
Right. Yes.
Has that ever happened in my line of work with the projects that I've been on? No.
Right.
But that's just a for instance. It's totally based around, I don't get paid until you guys get paid.
Right.
I don't know if this is a question for you or Nathan or whatever. What as far as like branding goes, and maybe Kevin can touch on this too, as far as like when you go out and change something like this and you have all these logos already created and work shirts and things within the rec center that also then maybe need to go and get rebranded. What kind of job and what kind of money does that entail?
Well, Nathan, I don't know if you want to say something, but I know, you know, in the last, 5 years, Stephanie had, you know, in the city did a whole rebranding campaign and have all that. And, you know, we have our certain things. And like our agreement with Sanford, you know, part of that says no other healthcare thing can come in, kind of, you know, that kind of deal. But I think that's what he was talking about in Belle Fourche, same kind of thing, you know. We wouldn't lose, you could set it up to where you wouldn't lose the Mitchell Recreation Center identity as a option anyway. I mean, there's different options out there, but yeah, I don't think, I'm just assuming the city wouldn't want to do a total rebranding after they did all that. I'm guessing.
Yeah, for the facility or
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
where it's signage around just the building in general.
So the way Pepsi does that, where our agreement with them for that 200,000 is they added an additional 20,000 for all of the rebranding we had to do. So you'd probably just build that into the agreement, is what you would get your X amount of dollars, not rebranding in terms of who we are. It's just if you're adding the powered by, or if it is a X rec center, I don't know, Pepsi rec center type thing, then I'm sure that's only based on dollar amounts.
Yeah, it's all made to measure. I mean, it's based off of the whole negotiation, as if basically if they want to put their logo on the building or not. But as far as, I mean, typically when it comes to naming rights that you just mentioned in the past, where it's been a full rebranding, full sports complex has been named XYZ. I mean, in the future, basically how everything is developed on anything that's newly developed, like if I was wearing a shirt right now that said, you know, Mitchell Rec Center, it'd be the next, I guess, design of shirts that went out would have that name that follows it. So anywhere and everywhere that the name is associated, that naming rights partner would follow. So a flyer, a T-shirt, and then any type of website exposure too. so the group can feel like they're getting that organic exposure for those touches, so everyone sees that
Yes,
their
that's
name.
that's kind of my question, like how much, what if that is built into the.
You'd have to build it into the agreement, similar like we did with Pepsi. Any other thoughts? Marty, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't hear. It's good. One of my concerns is what Kevin did brought up with our branding that we did 5 years ago. I don't know what kind of discussions you guys may have had in the front office, as in the mayor and Stephanie, to see what their thoughts were on that portion of it. Immediately, it comes a little bit of concern to me as a council member of what we did throughout the city of taking that and changing that name in full. I think the Belle Fourche option might be a way that you might be directed to go. Once again, I'm one of several, but just have a feel for their concern on our branding rights that we've done over the years. So
You spend all that money.
right, that'd be one thing to point out. Obviously, we've worked with several different entities on doing fundraisers like this. 20%, I know you mentioned that as generous. There's been some that I worked with that have been lower, but it all structured differently on how they want to do it. I understand the fact that you get your money only if the money is raised and things like that, so it's a little different technique compared to some want it guaranteed up front that we're going to get it, so how they'll make it a little lower because they're going to be guaranteed some type of percentage. So if you're looking at your 20%, are you, and if our goal is $1 million, is it to raise $1 million or is it raise 1.25 so we have $1 million in pocket?
So it depends on the whole naming rights, and we were chatting about this too, that if it isn't a full complex naming rights,
Okay.
I mean, just based off of the market feedback that I've gotten, I mean, I was in Omaha, and, it was a 142-acre sports complex, brand new.
Yep.
And typically, that was about the number that we got for naming rights there. I was thinking, if we were going to name the aquatic center, it'd be 10% of the overall cost, so that $7 million price tag. If someone's going to be able to call it the XYZ Bank Aquatic Center at the Mitchell Recreation Center, it would be 10% of that overall cost, so it would be that 70 to 75. I think that you lose a little bit of value by not doing an overall rebranding, having a powered by, because when you look at a Google search engine, it's going to show up as the Mitchell Recreation Center. It's not going to show up as the XYZ Bank Recreation Center.
Right. And then mostly you, obviously, like you said, the low-hanging fruit, which is something in my mind, with us being a small town. I mean, everybody knows everybody's first name, no matter where we all go, especially in the business institutions. So you would, and then once again, it's not really direction-wise, but is your direction trying to be more on, I don't want to say bigger entities that are more, maybe Midwestern-wise, or, the 5-state area, kind of thing where, how do I want to say it? I don't need you to go to a local business because that might have a lot of, obviously, revenue there, because I can do that just as quick as you can, and we can save ourselves 20%. You know what I'm trying to get at?
Right.
Because
And I
there's a lot of us that know
That's
everybody
fair.
on a first-name basis, and I'll be having wine with the guy tomorrow night. So
That's completely fair. I mean, at the end of the day, too, if we were having that conversation at the same time, and you got to naming rights before me, then that's the way she goes. You know what I mean? It's just basically if you guys went out and got naming rights, then I just thank you for your time, and hopefully you have as a great reference. I'm going to use a story now with the Denny Sanford Premier Center. Billion Auto, they wanted to at one point not to be involved at all because they didn't like the location. Well, okay, and then so we go to carsforsale.com. They become the exclusive partner there. At the end of the day, I don't need, the mayor calling me up saying, hey, why didn't you give the local partner an opportunity to take naming rights? Why did you go to the national partner and at least give the guys in our backyard an opportunity? I think that's what I definitely want to avoid 100%.
right. Just my one big thing, Nathan, is obviously there's several other things that are going on within the community, which I know you probably are aware of.
Yeah.
Some of them that are obviously taking a very same approach like this. I think most of it's not going to be hired out. Maybe this situation needs to be that way. I think a lot of it's going to be doing in-house, let's call it, like I was sort of driving there. I just want to make sure if we do try to move forward this as a park board, that we have some of that discussion with the powers to be, that we
Yep.
be careful on who we're knocking on the door twice on kind of attitude, because there's some big hitters that are getting talked to as we speak
Yep,
right
yep,
now. So
absolutely.
that'd be a thing where we'd have to say, hey, stay away kind
Yeah.
of thing. Because they're already being asked on something else that we have going on in the community, on some other fundraising events that's behind closed doors.
Absolutely. Today, I'm just wanting to see if the board is interested first, and then we'll be talking with the mayor and going through the process on, which way do we go and how do we not interfere with other things that are happening. So, yep, fully aware. But just curious.
Well, for you from a city point of view, whenever there's free money coming in from someplace else, obviously it makes me feel a lot happier, especially the matching funds on anything. So,
Yep.
I mean,
If I could add to what you had said too, and in that list, you guys are putting together a list for me of groups not to go after. So that way we're not spinning each other's wheels, there's no double touches per se. It's basically, hey, this is a list of people that are exclusive to the city of Mitchell. Please don't talk to them. Everybody else is fair game. That happens on every project.
And we've already started a list just based on the things that we have, like, obviously, we can't have another beverage company, And also, this is also just rec center, it's nothing else within the city, and we're strictly focused on just the rec center, but,
If this were to get approved here today, kind of piggybacking on what you were saying, as far as we don't really know how maybe others feel outside of this group about naming, how the naming goes, if it's a total rebranding or if it's maybe a partial or however you describe that. But so if this were to get approved here today, that decision would be made where?
yep, so the only thing I'd be looking for is just support from the board, because if you don't support it, there's no, it would die here, and that would be
I'm
it,
just
so.
wondering who makes that final call on what level of naming right it is if it turns into the.
I would work with Mayor Everson on that, and whether or not he would like to see it go to council, or he says, go ahead and move it forward with the board within these parameters. So he would make that decision for me. So either it goes to council or it'll stay here. It'd be up to him at that point.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. Let me see how I worded it.
You just had discussion.
Just discussion, yep. So no action tonight, but is this something you'd like to see to come back and,
As Marty said, I'm all about free money.
all right? So at this point, then I'll go to the mayor and we'll talk about that on whether or not we bring that next month here or we bring it to council and, or if it's a delay until we get through some other things within the city, that'll be up to him as well, so. All right?
Yeah, I would be happy to get you guys some references too, to be able to call on, to make sure I'm just not some fly-by-night guy. Candidly.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, guys.
And when you look at some of your references for a lot of things, for comparables, obviously, I know you mentioned the Texas area and stuff like that, and not that that's not a good reference by any means, but I think what I hear a lot of people try to compare to is sister-like cities, and I know you mentioned like Watertown, which we refer to them as our sister-like community. Just keeping some of that in mind, if somebody's requiring some references, those will go quite further than a community in Houston or things like that, oh yeah, but there's how many millions of people there compared to a 15,000 population neighborhood, so for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I'm passing around, give my card too on our website too. It gives a complete list of past projects that we've been on. And you can send me an email, Nathan, too, or whoever, and just basically say, hey, who is the point of contact here in a kind of in a similar market? And I mean, typically there's projects that we've been on with 3,000 people in Lamar, Missouri, all the way up to 200,000 people. So the spectrum is a big one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, right on. Thank you for your time, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, so moving on, do we have any additions or deletions on the agenda? If not, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second. A motion and a second, or a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Say aye. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. a motion? Can I get a second? We got a motion and a second to approval of the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passed. Approval of the bills.
All right. Okay, we'll start off here with the revenue this year and how we're doing. Again, we're overall revenue with the department is above 700,000, up from the 454 where we were last year for obvious reasons. Doing very, very well at the rec center. It's really turned around. Our programs are way up as we expected. Our shelter rentals, which is that 21,000, is also up from last year. Sports complex, again, same issue across the board. This would be the recreation and aquatics programs. Expenses are doing well. Really nothing to point out that we are on track. This would be the rec center, and 180,000 for expenses compared to 202 last year. We did a lot of cleaning and projects while we were down last year, and so I think that pretty much would explain why we're a little lower this year. Sports complex. The major note here is our major improvements that we're working on this year, which would be the refrigeration system at the ice arena, the artificial turf project, and also the roofing project as well. So a lot of capital projects going on over there this year. Cadwell concessions, we feel we had a really good year there. This would be the expenses here. Everything was right in line with what we expected. Parks, I would say that we were a little busier this year out there because we had more staff. We had a delay in hiring seasonal staff last year, so we were able to get more done this year. So our expenses are a little bit up compared to last year. And then supervision office, again, everything is right on track. Campground, again, is doing very well. We've exceeded 110,000 in revenue, and we've purchased a couple of vehicles with that this year, so our expenses are up there, but we're still within budget. Okay, and then bills. Getting to page 23 here. Again, the Nova Fitness equipment is the new equipment for the rec center. We had, Kevin, can you remind them how much total you guys spent there?
The total there was just a little over 24,000 for the new equipment that went up into the multi-purpose room.
What new equipment did you get? I forget.
You know, up there we had the white machines with the blue pads. We replaced the majority of those with new stuff. They were about 20-some years old.
Just couldn't remember what all was in the.
Yeah.
And then page 26A, Jeremy, you want to fill them in on the pump repairs that you've had this year?
We had for our irrigation pumps for Cadwell, we had, both of them were down for about a week, and then we had one down for about a month, so we were just using one. They needed 2 new VFDs, variable frequency drives, and that reads the pressure so it knows to automatically come on. So if we were to replace those at any point, we already have those new, and that would have been paid for.
And then page 26B here, just the, finish up the roofing, sealing up the areas on the roof at the ice arena. And then page 29A. If you look here, this would be the tennis court. We resurfaced those tennis courts, and those are all completed now. I think that was, I've got a couple more. These ones here were the wrapping up the skate park lighting, and also the final ramp, which will be delivered here by the end of the month and installed at the 1st of November here. And that's it.
Motion to approve. Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Abstain. Motion passed. Old business, we got action to approve the revised Mitchell Figure Skating Academy agreement.
Okay, again, we tabled this until this month, and again, staff is asking to allow Mitchell Figure Skating to advertise on the boards. I know that representatives from the Hockey Association are here tonight, and they would like to talk to you first, I think. I don't really have anything else to add. Nothing's changed. Tonight, I would ask for an approval or a denial so we can move on.
For those of you who weren't here last month, I'm Lori Goldhammer. I'm the president of the Mitchell Skating and Hockey Association, and I appreciate and thank you very much for giving me another month to kind of go through the records. One of the drawbacks of a parent-run organization is that leadership changes yearly, or at least very frequently, and I'm finding that a lot of the records over the years don't necessarily follow that leadership change. So I appreciate that you gave us a little extra time. So the first thing I want to talk about is we discussed the hockey boards, and one of the comments that was made last month was that they were a permanent structure. And I wanted to clarify that they're not a permanent structure. They can be removed at any time. Probably not a good time right now with ice on them. But in the past, for many years, the members would take those boards down at the end of the season. They'd stack them off to the side, and then before we started making ice, they'd put those boards back up. And then, I don't know exactly how many years ago, the city approached us and said, you know what, they really aren't interfering with us parking our mowers and our tractors and all of that other stuff there, so you can go ahead and leave them up. So we've left them up from that point going forward. So from the permanent structure standpoint, they definitely are not. I mean, if the city wants us to start taking them back down, we certainly can, but, you know, that's not the topic that we're going over tonight. But the other thing that we talked about was the ownership of the boards. And we donated the Innovative Rink boards to the city as part of our Twice the Ice donation. So obviously, you know, that's pretty much cut and dried. And then we talked about the Toshiba boards. And initially, the Hockey Association had purchased those in full, and then we did receive a reimbursement from the city for about 50% of that. So basically, that indicates to me that we own half and the city owns half. So up until this point, we have been operating under the assumption that we own both sets of boards. So we've been covering all of the cost of any of the maintenance or repair that needed to be done on those. I mean, if a glass was broken during a practice or a hockey game, we repaired that. And we also would replace a board in the event they were broken if a Zamboni ran into them and, you know, damaged them beyond being able to repair them. So that's kind of the impression that we're running on prior to this, you know, digging into this a little bit. So I understand that the figure skaters want to advertise, and I mean, believe me, we need to advertise because we need to be able to support our program as well. But when I looked at their advertising agreement, it reads in part, selling advertising panels which are affixed to the facility building. So to me, if we're talking about the fixtures or the signs that go up on the walls, not a problem. If the city owned 100% of the Toshiba rink boards, then it wouldn't be a problem for us either. But since they're not a permanent structure, and we own 50% of those boards, we'd really respectfully ask that the advertising be limited to the way the contract reads, which is on the facility building and not on the boards themselves. I mean, we take that to, you know, that not to be part of the facility building, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, there's panels up on the wall right now that are blank that could be used, and obviously there's dasher boards as well that, you know, that could have advertising put on those as well. So.
Where are you talking about doing outside the board? It wasn't on boards anyway, was it?
It was on the outside of the boards, right as you walk in the Toshiba rink, so that you would see it as you walk in.
So I haven't been in hockey, the other facility, for a while. After my daughters got done, it's been a beautiful break. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be coming back soon, Lori. You know that. I got a granddaughter that's getting ready. So anyway, so you're saying there's other boards. Obviously, you're talking about the boards that I'm assuming that hang from the rafters. Let's call it. There's other areas that are
Right.
that are able to be filled in yet.
Yep, there's still room up there. I know obviously there's room in the Innovative rink, but there's room in the Toshiba rink as well.
What they're talking about is, maybe you haven't been in there since, there are actual signage in
Correct.
the white parts of the board.
Yep. I knew the ones that were always on the inside of it. I'm going to call it when I'm sitting in the stands. You can see them, and you know, it's filled up all the way around the corners until you can't, which is really not a good place to advertise after it gets around the bend enough. But I guess what I'm looking at is the fact that there's other areas to advertise. You know, if it was completely full and this was the only option we had left, is when you come into the ice arena, and that's where it is left. But if there's other areas that are still keeping everything organized, symmetrical, however you want to call it, you know, kind of not getting spotty all over the place. Maybe it's the fact of, hey, you can advertise and there's spaces up here to fill. Let's keep on filling the continuous area that we've been trying to do over the years. I mean, not giving support. I want both entities to keep on existing. I want them both to be successful, and they both need money. We all know that. No sports really operate at all without some kind of sponsorships coming in. I just want to make sure that in-house with the organization that is in place, that it can all get together and unite and still operate as one. So, you know, giving them some areas, it's not that we're going to, or you guys should say, going to the figure skating and saying, you can't advertise at all, so too bad, you can't get any money. It's still, we're just asking you to advertise in the appropriate spots. So I give a little bit of kudos to those on the hockey board and working with the ice skating rink, or the figure skating you know, group too, you know, to make sure that they still have the avenue to you know, to put some resources and get some funding out there. So once again, Park Board will make your own decisions on what you guys want to do. Just wanted to point out the fact that not knowing that there's areas to keep on for them to create some average, you know, money coming in, and there is. So maybe they should keep what status quo is going for what it's worth. So.
Jeremy, is there any issue doing it the way she's talking about, from your standpoint?
On the boards?
No,
On the-
like eliminating the boards and just using the hanging stuff and the other signage that's available.
No, not until it gets full, though.
Until it gets full.
I mean, there are probably 5 or 6 spots.
I don't know. I look at those every
If
time
you
I
go
go
over
in
the
there.
shooting
but-
cage, it's kind of blocked.
Yeah.
You can only hang them down so low. But if you guys get 5 more and she gets 10, there's not going to be enough spots. I don't know how many there is, but 10 max, I would think.
And we may need to come around and go along underneath the mezzanine area. I
Yep.
mean, boards, we definitely
that.
could put advertising up there.
Side, above the bleachers would be terrible.
Right, right.
I think they want everything on the player side so fans could see.
But you see them as you're walking in and
Yeah.
when you're walking back and forth, definitely.
Yep.
Has there been any discussion of allocating so many, and is it just a sort of a free-for-all to either side because you guys are somewhat one entity, or is it, hey, there's 10 boards that we're going to make sure we purposely, reserve for figure skating that cannot be filled by somebody else for them to have a guaranteed chance to get some funds and not fill the boards? I mean,
I guess at our point, we haven't had any discussions on it because we were mainly concerned about them advertising on the outside of those boards. But, I mean, we definitely, I think we can find probably more spots than we have right now. And they certainly, I'm not going to say that we want to hoard every advertising area that's out there because obviously we can't fill them all.
If you go underneath the room, underneath the windows, say, there's probably 15 leased spots for more advertisement.
And quite honestly, if they would advertise in that manner, it's going to benefit us as well, because every hockey player that comes in, hockey parent, I should say, is also going to see those advertising. So I should say we're not going to benefit, but whoever she has for advertisement is also going to benefit from the whole hockey family, because we're going to see those advertisements every time we come in as well.
and when we refer to she, from who's she?
The figure skater,
Yeah,
sorry.
who is?
Jessica Steidel.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking is because I didn't know if, I thought maybe it was Jessica still, and I'm just wondering why.
She's not the president
She's not
anymore. They
here.
have a new president, but she's helping out as the new president.
Okay.
Is coming in.
And just for clarification, if they can't take those boards and sell them, the city, it is a city, it's on their asset list, it would have to be surplus through legal means and sold at an auction. So that's how it would have to go. And there is some plain areas on the boards on the outside, and she's only asking for those 2 spots. She's not asking for anything else. And I don't know if Jeremy wants to get in and remove, where the signs go, but this is an empty spot. So that's just the 2 cents on that.
One thing I look at from when I'm on council wise, and obviously I'm glad you're up here proposing as an entity, I was in one group that you guys are willing to work with someone and give them an area to advertise in, or some, obviously the additional signage. The one thing that sort of I question a little bit is the fact that nobody here on figure skating here to represent themselves, because I have some questions for figure skating, and I would assume somebody else here does too. Why particular just those 2 spots? Why are we not opening to other areas? Things like that. I sort of question a little bit when I don't have representation from the other side. How crucial is it for them to want these 2 spots, but they're not here to represent it, for what it's worth? That's my city council kind of aspect of things once in a while.
She has told me they wanted those spots on the outside of the boards for this year. Those were the only spots they were going to do, and look for additional spots next year, because that is pretty much the most visual spot. Everyone that walks in walks through those lobby doors and sees the corner of that rink right there.
So I guess I give you some choices. The choices that you have in front of you tonight is to approve this. It's still stated as approved by the city. So we could say advertising, but not on the boards, and approve the allowing them to have advertising, or I guess the other one is to allow them to advertise on the boards with the same agreement. We are asking that the agreement go through either way, but you can give Jeremy some direction on what he should allow and should not allow here.
Let's say everything that's possibly there gets taken up by either or entity. And now we're looking at this spot that they want. How is it going to get divided up of who gets what? I guess that's the way I look at it. Like, if everything else is taken up and this is the next spot, how are we deciding who? Because then you're back to kind of square one on who gets what in the whole facility, per se.
We're looking,
the next
I guess the way that Jeremy and I were looking at it is it's grandfathered in. We weren't going to steal any real estate from what's already there. If there's an open spot, that's where we wanted them to look. This was an open spot. They looked there, and they're asking for it. So we're not asking to take down advertising, or we're not asking to take advertising on the panels on the inside, it's just on the outside. It's an open spot. Nobody's advertised there for however long the ice arena's been there.
So with it being an open spot, would it be, I mean, not putting idea, but I don't know how the boards that got, the ones that are available there, are those put up by the city? Like, are those, like if there's room there, is there a structure just to pin something to? I haven't been in there a while either. It's been,
I don't think so.
they just hang, right?
We get,
How did they, how
there's
does the
two
one-
different kinds. There's some that hang from chains and some that are mounted to, like above the locker rooms.
Like mounted on a board or a surface?
Yep.
So is there, if it went back to the board issue, like the board issue, putting it on the back of the board, what would be stopping them from creating a structure that sits in front of the board where it's not attached to the board itself? You know what I mean?
Theoretically, we could do that too, but I mean, it just seems
I know,
kind of
but
ridiculous
that's,
at that point, you
yeah,
know?
but it gets to the point where like, everything's taken up, and then what do? We don't,
It's a lot of years, like.
I know.
I've been involved for 15 years. I mean, if there was every spot taken up in that rink, especially with the new mezzanine, it'd be awesome, because our fees would go down, I hope. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's a lot of space there. It's a big building. So,
And a lot of those advertising contracts are year to year. So, I mean, they may advertise for 2 to 3 years. We had a lot of them when the Twice the Ice went, you know, where they went for a longer period of time. But, you know, they may say, I'll want one this year, and then somebody may say, well, I'll do it this year since that person's not going to, you know, that kind of thing. So I agree with Andy. I mean, I've been in the association for many years, and I've never seen it jam-packed full of signs where there's no room. Our big concern is they're going to pay for, or they're going to get advertising, and they're going to put it on something that we have 50% ownership in. I mean, that's probably our biggest sticking point with that. If the city owned 100% of those boards, then, you know, I wouldn't be here standing in front of you. That's the part that we have heartburn with, so to speak.
Then we would have to, I guess we could bring back, you know, this is the layout of the ice arena. Where do you want us to put advertising? Where do you not want us to put advertising? And we can get into that conversation as well. I mean, I don't know. It seems to me like regardless of what spot they choose, I'm going to have to come back and ask for, is this okay?
yeah, but like
You know,
we discussed last week
Yeah.
with donations, I mean, it's the city owns the boards. From our discussion last month.
It's on our asset
With
list.
With
yep.
the donation, even if it's 50% donation, it's still that the city is ownership of.
But that's only for permanent structures. The way our agreement reads, if we make, like we built the mezzanine, we built that and it's a permanent structure, and once we got done spending the money, it became the property of the city. But these are not permanent structures. I mean, they're just bolted to the floor. We can just unscrew the bolts and pick them up and carry them out.
And we don't want to diminish, you know, their contribution, you know, to the ice arena, especially over the years or anything. I mean, that's not what we're trying to do here today, but we do have, you know, a group asking to advertise, and we just need some direction from the board.
You know, if there's someone from figure skating here, I'd ask, why does it have to be that area if there's another area
Yeah.
that works?
that's what I said, it just seems silly that we're having this huge conversation over 2 spots when there's 20 others that can fill up first, or 30, or a lot of others.
I would say it would be status quo with what's been going on in the location of things until it becomes necessary.
Until we run out of spots, that's what I mean. So I don't know how we word that, if it's just,
You don't need to word it. I mean, the language in here is approved by the city, and we're just give us some direction on how to handle it is all. We don't want to get into language here for advertising.
awesome, sounds good.
My only concern is what happens next year when these contracts are year to year and both people want the same spot. You know, because one advertiser thinks, you know, I don't know, prime location or something.
I would love it for it to get to that point, but I don't,
Yep.
not for a while. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm short-sighted, I don't know.
I would think if it came down to it and there was 3 spots right there and who got it, who didn't, the only fair thing to do would be you get one, you get the next. You get one, you get the next.
I would
If you
think-
don't have a sponsor and they have 2, they get those 2. But you go back and forth, back and
You do
forth.
it even, I was
Yep.
wondering if hockey maybe shouldn't get more since we get, 5 times the revenue from them.
They got more right now, all of it.
Yeah,
But I mean, just to keep it fair,
yeah.
you have a new sponsor, you got this spot here, or this wall right here. Then the next one, hockey gets one, then figure skating. Okay, now you have 2. Okay, if you come in with like 10, I might, if figure skating comes in, I got 15 sponsors. I'd probably go to hockey and say, do you guys have any? Because they have a lot. We're going to fill up.
You come back to the point and ask,
Right.
there's only 2 more spots left
Yeah.
that's on those boards.
That's
Till then,
that'd be a good problem
you
to
can hear
have.
from me for a while, Saturday, Sunday.
But like Lori and Andy said, that one spot goes down, doesn't renew, maybe 2 new signs come up.
Right.
The next year, 3 go down, you get 1 more.
Right.
We've kind of been at a consistent number for a while now.
Yeah.
And one other comment, I guess, is we do want to maintain the consistency on our end. We generally don't ask you where the location was. This was brought up by hockey. It wasn't brought up by us. We were just going to approve it because that's the way we've done it in the past for all of our facilities, is we approve the locations. We don't, micromanage, I guess, that aspect of our job. And I ask that we continue to not do that, even though today I understand that because of the request from hockey and that they've come and we appreciate them coming down, that we ask that for approval of this, but make sure you make a note that this would not include the paneling or the boards, I guess, so.
Okay. Well, then I'll motion to approve.
Need a little help with the motion then, Stephen.
Or is there a special way you have to motion?
No, you can just approve this. We know not to put it on there.
Tell Jeremy this is what we want,
Yeah.
right? Basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, if you want to make sure that they can't put on the boards, the panels, that in your motion,
Okay.
that you motion to approve the contract, but you also need to put in there
That portion.
that portion of it, that you approve the contract as written with the addition of.
So basically, we're approving the contract as written, and then the advertising is at this point where it is in that building, right? I mean, that's kind of the deal, right?
Yeah, we're not adding
Adding
any advertising,
in the areas
yeah.
that it's in currently. I don't know.
That'd be fine.
It's advertising stays in the location right now until filled.
Right, and then it goes to somewhere else.
That'll be fine.
So I have a motion, second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. No. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
You notice I asked for help, by the way. Board reports.
Is this Kevin?
That me? That's me. I'll quickly just summarize. Right now, we're kind of in our, the middle of our fall sports, wrapped up football and volleyball a couple weeks ago. I'm going to start basketball next week for youth. Men's is still going on. We've got co-ed volleyball coming up here in the next 2 weeks. That'll start. And then some swim lessons as well that'll be starting up here. That already did start, but we have different levels and different sessions going on. The rec center, been going very well. Still maintaining our numbers. We are hosting a smaller, or the Aquatic Club is hosting a smaller swim meet this weekend. So the Aquatic Center will be closed down Saturday. Was going to be Sunday, but it sounds like they're going to be done early to where I think we might be able to be open on Sunday for open swim. So we're going to make that decision tomorrow. Not sure if we have enough lifeguards yet. Jamie's checking on that because we had already scheduled it to not be open, but she thinks she should be able to have a few. again, usage has been going well, and we're also kind of working on our 2022 fees for programs and membership rates and things like that, and I think we're going to be presenting those at the next board meeting, I believe.
Any questions for Kevin? Steve?
Well, we've been winterizing the outdoor pool. We got the hillside seeded around the skate park. Been putting up the mile marker signs around the trails out the lake. Planted a tree and installed a bench that got donated from a family at Kippis Cove. Just got our boulevard trees marked and park trees marked that need to come out this winter. Just been spraying parks, added wood chips to the playgrounds at Dry Run and Northridge. And then with just our day-to-day maintenance, the mowing, irrigation maintenance, stuff like that. Any questions?
Jeremy?
Cadwell, we got Park and Rec flag football that goes through the 27th, just on Wednesdays. GW baseball and softball, I talked to them today. They will have their last practices tomorrow, I believe. They want their full teams out there, but they might use the batting cage a little bit, some groups here and there. We got sunshades down on Tuesday. We're going to look at winterizing bathrooms and sprinklers coming up here shortly. Still got a little bit more fence work to do on Drake. I picked up some more 4-foot fence for in front of the dugouts. So we'll put that up before the turf comes. The turf company is done. They left a couple weeks ago. All the dirt work is leveled, drainage is in. They still, whenever the turf does come, they're still looking at the end of December, but they left some rock there, and a few people have been walking on it, but so they'll come and laser level it again, the top layer of rock, right before they put that turf on.
Can they do that when it's cold?
It's got to be 40 degrees for about 2 weeks it takes, but it doesn't have to be a straight 2 weeks. They can come for...
And that's why we extended that contract, so they could
I
hopefully...
was just thinking the dirt work, if that could be done.
All that's done.
Yeah, well, you were saying extra leveling.
Oh, yeah. They got all the rock down. They drug it, but, yeah, they'll do that extra leveling right when the turf is here, so no one else walks on it or no one else can get on it and disturb it. We're cleaning up some dirt and rock from the parking lot. Started to spray fence lines and fields and outer areas. Wood chips, we got wood chips today, so we'll put those in the playgrounds at the softball fields. Pull bases and L screens at the park fields. Continue mowing and cleaning. That'll really slow down. We'll get some a little bit of frost this weekend, so it's not going to be much growing. Soccer, the Soccer Association is done with games. They have a few practices. They're going to go a little bit longer. DW, men's and women's, has games through the end of this month and then maybe into November if they make the playoffs and they're the higher seed. Still going through sprinkler heads and valves. There's been a lot of problems with plugged heads and heads not turning from pulling lake water and cleaning screens out of sprinkler heads. Started spraying out there also and just continued mowing and probably paint at least one more time, and then depending on if they have games in November. The ice arena is up and going. Figure skating started practice on the 2nd. Hockey out of camp the 17th through the 21st. They've had 4 or 5 learn to skate sessions. Their optional practice started on the 4th, but they're pretty much, it's their full practice schedule that they're doing. And their mandatory practices in the middle of November. So we started shaving and edging and doing our ice maintenance. We're going through and checking all the gates, locker room doors, closers, all those. Ring Tech thought they'd be here by the 1st of November, but one of my other guys talked to one of their maintenance guys. They're still looking at 4 weeks to get a chiller barrel. So that is still pushed back. But that portable compressor unit is doing way better than I thought it was going to. The middle school shed is done. They got all their stuff is moved in there, so we put, where our old compressor room is, we had a lot of storage stuff in there. We got it into the room. We got some shelves. We're going to start to put those up and utilize that room. And lots of daily cleaning now with practices going on every night.
Any other questions for Jeremy? And just a couple of items on mine that I need to just bring to your attention. When we put up the trail signs, we put some trail signs up in this area. If you can see on the map, this is over, yeah, I don't know, what do you call this area, Steve? The substation, that's right. Yep. Well, when we put signs up there, the owner of that land contacted me and let me know that we were on their side of the property. So we had no idea, but we came to the conclusion that we were on their property. You can see it's pretty significant. You can kind of see the trail right where that hand is. So we went ahead and rerouted the trail right in this area, and it heads on back on out. So that's been closed, and it's no longer on private property.
So where does that start at?
It starts right about right there.
So
And
this goes back.
yeah, it just kind of comes out. It was doing a loop. Now it just comes back and then comes along the river, or the lake there. So we did get that taken care of, in case you hear anything. And then I got one more. So as you may have heard about the rodeo grounds, that would be up in this area. I haven't been asked to remove that field at this point, but it could impact that field. We have talked to the family that has the naming rights for that field, and they're okay with moving it down to this area, and then we would take Mountain Dew's name and put it in the center field, and we'd be in compliance with all of our agreements. So it's okay to remove that field, and you only need 8 fields to host tournaments. We've checked into that as well. So we have no real issues because we don't really use all the fields. Jeremy, if you want to weigh in there, that would.
No, I mean, we haven't, they do have or did before COVID have a smaller tournament, but did not use all fields. I think the only time that all 10 fields were used, they had a state high school tournament right when it was built. But now they have a different kind of format where you play at the higher seed, and when you get to the championship game, it's a neutral site, but it's not 100%, but 95% they want to play on turf anyways for that championship game.
So I just wanted you to be aware of it. I haven't been asked to remove it or anything at this point, but I wanted you to be aware we are ready in case that does happen. And then back to my agenda. Our 2022 budget is completed, or submitted. And that's, we're going to be talking capital on Monday, and again, maybe on the last Monday of this month as well. Rec center bids, again, like, those were denied, and we're going a different route at this point and getting some quotes, and hopefully get that filled in by the end of this year.
What's the different route?
So we can spend up to $100,000 without bidding. And so we're just going to hire contractors to do the work and not spend more than that $100,000. And then next year, once we've got it filled in and got the concrete, we'll rebid the project without that in there. So that's the hope, that it'll come in better. And again, I told you about Drake Field, or not Drake Field, the rodeo grounds, and also the trail project as well. I don't think I have anything else in here that, most of the projects, again, are still just delayed because of, supply issues. So we're waiting on pretty much everything. Any questions?
Next, we have the with the South Dakota Council Consultant contract.
So, Kevin, do you want to take this one?
Is that this one, or is mine the last one?
This one's the $32,500 for the diabetes prevention program, is that correct?
I thought we were approving the Silver Sneakers to one pass.
That's that one too. That one's next, that's coming up.
Oh,
The
okay.
first one is the contract for the diabetes prevention program for $32,500 in funds.
Yeah, that's an extension of what we did last year. Thomas works with the South Dakota Department of Health, putting on a diabetes prevention program. It's held on Monday nights, and he teaches the class. It's a 9-week program, and the South Dakota Department of Health is willing to extend that for another year and offer up to $32,000 of revenue. So it's a great program. So yeah,
Yep.
it's been very good.
We're seeking approval for the contract, yeah.
Motion approved.
Oh, I'm sorry, I should get that up on the board.
Any second?
Second.
Got a motion approved and second, so all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passed. So next we have action to approve the changes at Drake.
Okay, and I'll let Jeremy kind of weigh in on this one. We had to do a change order on the fly just because they were leaving and we had one area, and I will take you to that as well. We had to add an area for the artificial turf. Let me go ahead and draw this space right here. Did not have any artificial turf, but the area, let me get my pointer here. This area had artificial turf, and this area also has artificial turf all the way to this point. So he was going to have to mow around the light and into there, which would cause grass to get all over the place, and we didn't want that. So we went ahead and added that, and we're asking for you to approve that tonight. And we're within budget. We had the funds.
Your motion? Second? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carried.
And this is the other agreement that Kevin was referring to on the Silver Sneakers program. I do want to point out that because of a deadline, we had to approve it, but we included the language that the authorization was subject to Parks Board approval tonight. So we're hoping for your approval on this as well. And Kevin, do you want to add to that?
Yep, so basically what the approval is a new, right now we have a Silver Sneakers program with a certain Humana package that people have, and Medica. Medica is changing from Silver Sneakers to One Pass. We're still keeping Silver Sneakers with Humana, but Medica is changing to what's called One Pass. Sorry about that. I don't know if that's this microphone, but and this is it'll be run the same way. The only difference is, which is a better difference, before with Silver Sneakers, we got every time someone checked in, we got, I think it's like $2.50 every time they checked in, up to $20 a month. This new program, if someone checks in one time, we automatically get $20 and can get up to $30. So it's actually a better revenue generator. Plus, like Nathan was saying, we did have to approve this contract for a deadline because if we signed up by a certain date, they gave us $5,000 to go towards health and wellness. So.
You got a motion and a second to approve the fitness passport service agreement. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carried. Our next meeting, I believe, is scheduled for a holiday. I don't know if you want to move it.
That's correct. November 11th is a Thursday. That's Veterans Day.
I don't know, I guess I'm open to whatever gets the most people here. If we want to move it to the Tuesday before, if we want to move it to the following Thursday, the Thursday before, I really don't.
I go with the Tuesday before the November 9th.
I'm okay if we can get 4 people and say they can come. So we got 3. That work for you? All right, so we'll set it for November 9th at 6 PM. Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
I don't put it in right away, we're good.
No, it's just, they fit with all this stuff.
Thank you.
You had up for a few cards? I've seen them down. Yeah, they've got some. They take them in like.